Thailand's new foreign tourism is limited despite the special tourist visa and new Chinese arrivals. Very little progress in reopening Thailand to tourism despite the fanfare surrounding new initiatives. As Thailand extended its state of emergency this week until the 31st of October, it is clear that the country is still in defensive mode against the COVID-19 virus no matter what the cost may be. Indeed, this should not come as a surprise. It has been the consistent message of the Thai Prime Minister, Prayut Chan, since the emergency was declared at the end of March. 120 foreign tourists from China will arrive in Phuket on the 8th of October next, representing the first foreign tourists in Thailand since it effectively closed down its foreign tourism industry in April with a projected loss of up to 8 billion baht a day. Despite an endless series of announcements and consultations, it also appears that the country is not set to reopen itself to foreign tourism, in any meaningful way, in the foreseeable future as it maintains its defensive posture against the virus at all costs. Thailand's new foreign tourism is limited despite the special tourist visa and new Chinese arrivals. Edit the 1st of October, 2020 at 1:22 am. James Morrison Sun Nguyen in Economy. Thailand tweet share thaiexaminer.com. Join our Thai News social network and keep an eagle eye on Thai news. Very little progress in reopening Thailand to tourism despite the fanfare surrounding new initiatives. As Thailand extended its state of emergency this week until the 31st of October, it is clear that the country is still in defensive mode against the COVID-19 virus no matter what the cost may be. Indeed, this should not come as a surprise. It has been the consistent message of the Thai Prime Minister, Prayut Chan, since the emergency was declared at the end of March. 120 foreign tourists from China will arrive in Phuket on the 8th of October next, representing the first foreign tourists in Thailand since it effectively closed down its foreign tourism industry in April with a projected loss of up to 8 billion baht a day. Despite an endless series of announcements and consultations, it also appears that the country is not set to reopen itself to foreign tourism, in any meaningful way, in the foreseeable future as it maintains its defensive posture against the virus at all costs. The first group of tourists to arrive in Thailand, under the first approved initiative to reopen the kingdom to tourism, will arrive in Phuket on a flight from China on the 8th of October next. It follows finalization of the special tourist visa with Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan in set right, assuring a nervous Thai public this week that this does not, in any way, represent a full reopening of the kingdom to tourism. Tourists arriving under the restrictive scheme will be subject to demanding criteria before leaving for Thailand, 14 days in the alternative state quarantine system, and will also have to wear an app tracking device on their wrists. Thailand will not be opening its borders to foreign tourism for quite a while yet. That was the message from Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan this week, even as he confirmed that the first tourists to arrive in Thailand since the country closed its borders in April this year will be 120 visitors from China who are scheduled to arrive in Phuket on the 8th of October next. "We are not opening the country, we are limiting the number of entries and will manage with wristbands, apps to follow them," the PM told reporters, referring to a tracking app that has been developed by the Ministry of the Digital Economy and will be used by all visiting tourists arriving on the new special tourist visa. Special tourist visa is the only approved measure that is being implemented, at this point, to restart tourism. The special tourist visa is the only measure that has been agreed by the government to date to facilitate Thailand's reopening to tourism. Despite the hype and publicity surrounding it, it comes with demanding conditions and is highly restricted in its availability. The 90-day visa itself, however, once the holder has arrived in Thailand, can be extended twice at a fee, giving a total maximum possible stay of 9 months in the kingdom. The visa, presently, can only be applied for from a limited number of countries with a proven track record in fighting the coronavirus. It can only be issued through the World Network of Royal Thai Embassies and Consulates or the Thailand Long Stay Company, a commercial entity operated by Thai tourism authorities to facilitate the new visa, which, as things currently stand, represents the only way that tourists can access Thailand. Access to the country with the visa is also limited to government-managed chartered flights from locations throughout the world. Approved by the Cabinet in September and only given final, conditional approval by the Centre for COVID-19 Situation Administration, CCSA, this week the visa was approved by the Thai Cabinet in mid-September, but more importantly, only received the critical assent of the Center of COVID-19 Situation Administration on Monday. This entity has emerged as the most powerful body in Thailand during the COVID crisis and is chaired by the Prime Minister, Prayut Chan ocha. Since the COVID-19 crisis erupted, the Prime Minister has stayed true to his commitment, given at the outset, to place public health ahead of all other considerations, and this has not changed despite renewed efforts by economic ministers and the establishment of a Centre for Economic Situation Administration at the end of August. The new visa comes with a requirement for a COVID-19 negative test within 72 hours of departure to Thailand, ample and certified health cover and a mandatory 14-day stay within Thailand's alternative state quarantine scheme. This is a network of luxury hotels working in partnership with the Ministry of Public Health. During the 14-day stay, tourists are tested twice. Alternative state quarantine scheme has limited capacity due to lack of medical screening facilities. The system has limited processing capacity and is not geared towards the return of anything like the free mass market tourism that existed in Thailand before March 2020, in the distant future. A key limitation is the lack of medical resources, including testing, to allow for scalable expansion of the alternative quarantine scheme, which has proved effective. The current Minister of Tourism and Sports, Prayut Chan, has suggested that the quarantine period may be reduced from 14 days to 7 days. This is based on international experience where some countries require COVID-19 tests at airports both before and after flying and have found this system, in addition to 5 days quarantine, to be more effective at screening than a 14-day quarantine period. However, the proposal has already drawn strong warnings from Thailand's medical establishment, who are advocating that the government resists and put aside all hopes of resurrecting the lucrative foreign tourism industry until the virus threat has been brought to an end outside Thailand's borders. They are warning that the kingdom faces a real threat of a far more virulent outbreak than that seen earlier in the year, and to date, Thailand has only experienced just over 3,600 cases of infection and 59 deaths, despite it being the first country to report a case of infection outside China earlier this year when the virus first emerged in Wuhan. New special visa holders expected to spend 1,700% more than the average 2019 visitor. On Tuesday, government spokesperson Prayut Chan told reporters that the kingdom was expecting just over 1,200 visitors per month under the new special tourist visa regime, and that this will help generate 1 billion baht per month in income. That is 833,000 baht per visitor and compares to an average spend of 49,500 baht per tourist visitor in 2019. Obviously, the new special tourist visa holders are high-spending individuals. That's an expenditure hike per person of 1,700%. Even if so, the new tourist visa will still only represent 0.7% of lost foreign tourism income. However, the projected income will still be far short of the 5.28 billion baht a day that foreign tourists alone spent last year. Economic analysts have also speculated that the knock-on effect of the absence of these tourists is an overall loss of 8 billion baht per day to the economy, as the tourism industry in Thailand from both direct and indirect sources makes up closer to 20% of the economy rather than the 11.9% shown by technical measurements or data. This daily loss is in addition to the 65% drop that Thailand has also seen in what was termed the domestic tourist market this year, despite generous government incentives, meaning Thailand is losing 7 billion baht per day in direct lost tourism expenditure at this time. The upshot is that the foreign tourism industry still stands to lose 99.28% of its income from now and into 2021 unless there is broader access to foreign tourism. World Bank warns that economic contraction in 2020 could be 10.4% and of poverty in the tourism sector. The Thai economy, according to the World Bank, is expected to contract sharply by 8.5% in 2020, although the Bank of Thailand has recently scaled this level of contraction back to 7.8% based on signs of reduced export contraction and with promises of retargeted government stimulus measures. The World Bank noted in its report this week that the extensive stimulus measures announced by Thailand for 2020 did not seem to translate into the real economy. Despite this, Thailand's borders effectively remain closed to foreigners and tourists except under narrowly defined grounds for which approved access is required on an individual basis and in process that is time-consuming and tortuous. A manager of the authority, Prayut Chan, on Tuesday also made it clear that officials would be meticulous in ensuring that incoming passengers possessed the proper paperwork, without which entry to the kingdom will not be allowed. Thailand, also this week, extended its state of emergency until the 31st of October as the country maintains its defensive posture against the virus, no matter what the cost may be.